Batman holds a special place in my heart. I mean, I'm pretty sure millions, possibly billions of people across the globe can say that, right? Like a mega star like this fictional character is. First of all, I don't even know if I should call him a superhero because he's like a rich dude in a suit, kind of like Iron Man. Does that make you super when you have the suit, but then normal when you don't? Like, if you qualify as a superhero, do you need to be super all the time? You can't just like accessorize super, just remove super and then be normal. Do you constantly have to be whatever? I'm not even gonna get into that. But I will say that he holds a special place in my heart for many reasons. Like the first movie that I ever saw in a theater was Batman 1989 with Michael Keaton, I believe. And I remember just being a little kid, right? Obviously, because I was like, man, I was single digits age, and I remember just being so tiny and the screen being so gigantic, and then seeing, Batman, my favorite, you know, superhero or whatever. I loved the action figures, the video games, which leads me to, what I'm speaking about today, which is Batman, the NES game. It's one of the most complete Nintendo games in existence. And by complete, I mean like it has absolutely everything that can make this game legendary, and it should be legendary, and it is legendary for famous and infamous reasons, right? Mainly the difficulty. The difficulty is almost godlike, almost, and that has a lot to do with the fact that there's only about 5 stages, maybe 5.5 stages in the game. So it is relatively short, but the game is so difficult that it causes you to die a lot and restart. So therefore, you can get like maximum replayability out of your cartridge, out of your copy of the game. And this was a trick, a hack, whatever you want to call it. This is something that they used to do with lots of games back then. Make the game short, but make it hard as hell, so it'll take you forever to finish it. And I mean, so many phrases were coined throughout history because of this practice, right? Like one of them being like Nintendo hard. Oh man, that's Nintendo hard. I don't hear that often anymore. Mostly said by people my age. But it's a game that it's super complete. It has everything that you need to make a game stand out in a plethora of average games and even good games. It has a awesome mechanics. It has an amazing soundtrack that still to this day, no bullshit, those tracks are burned permanently in my mind. I find myself like in the shower or just like laying around the house and a tune would just randomly pop in my head, and 9 times out of 10 it's always some old Batman NES chip tune track. They're so memorable, and at least for people my age. And it's so wild because it's like me praising this game. This game came out in 1989, right? Obviously, it's 2023 this year, and I hang around a lot of like a lot of my workforce is younger guys. Like I'm in my late 30s, right? I mean, you can consider me young depending on who you talk to, but like when you're talking to a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, you don't feel so sprightly. You're like, "Oh, I'm a dinosaur." So, I find myself trying to praise games that I think were, memorable and had a large impact on video games in general. Like obviously a lot of younger coworkers that I work with, they play video games, and lots of times they see dances and music and references to old video games that I know about, you know, and they don't. And I try to explain to them like how beautiful this game was, and then I'm hyping it up, and then if I was to show them a clip of what Batman from 1989 looks like, not only the movie but also the video game, they're going to go, "What the fuck is this old shit?" I can't get behind this. Like they might laugh because to them it's so old, and so they can't relate with it because they weren't alive during that time. They didn't see the how the sausage was made when it comes to video games. And if they were there to understand that, I came from Super Pitfall and Atari to, you know, God of War. I don't know why I said God of War. I haven't even played God of War, the new ones. I've never even played a full one, to be honest with you. I'm not huge on God of War. Cool game, just never really got around to playing it. Anyways, what I'm saying is the reason I said God of War is because those are considered cutting edge graphics of today. Or you know what? Let's move God of War to the side and let's say damn, I'm so out of fucking touch, and I'm over here talking about video games. I can't even give you a proper AAA title right now. Okay, let's just say like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right? Probably, whatever. Say whatever you want to say about the quality of the game or whatever. But it is a beautiful game, and it takes a lot to run it. Even though the game came out maybe like 2 years ago or something like that, it's still a pretty graphic intensive game. And we went from Batman 1989 for the NES to Assassin's Creed and God of War. It's like they didn't see the evolution of video games. They weren't there, so they can't understand how far we've come. Because they were born around the time of like I think one of the first games they played were like on PS2 or something like that. And I was like, damn, that made me feel even much older because by the time I was playing PlayStation 2, to me, video games were like, wow, we went so far. Look, we're using CDs and CD quality music and polygons and and by the PlayStation 2, the polygons were smoothed out better. So it wasn't like Lara Croft blocky titties for PlayStation 1. It was like, you know, them titties got smoothed up by PS2. So it's really cool to see that. Like to be there and experience an entire evolution. So I can understand why they wouldn't get into games that are as old as, me basically. I'm in my late 30s and but it is kind of cool though to, you know, like aging is weird. It's so weird because it doesn't in my world it doesn't seem like it's that long ago, and it doesn't help that I don't look like I'm in my late 30s. Everyone always tells me that I look like I'm in my mid 20s to late 20s. And I'm like, damn, that's a great compliment. But I'm like, dude, I'm pushing 40, and they're like, oh, I can't believe it. That's crazy, and whatever. Maybe they're being trying to flatter me or whatever. I don't know. But I don't feel like I'm in my late 40s. So if that, for whatever, take that with for whatever it means. So Batman NES is a game that like I don't feel it gets its credit. Yes, it was legendary hard, just like Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden gets all the credit, and those two games are super similar. Like they use a lot of the same mechanics. If you hear a dog barking, I don't know, it's some wild dog out there. Sorry about that, but what the fuck was I? Oh yeah, Ninja Gaiden gets all the praise. Batman 1989 does not, even though they're so similar in so many ways. They both have fantastic soundtracks. They both have very similar gameplay mechanics, and they're both hard as fuck. They're like legendary difficult games. Um, there's lots about the Batman game that I feel stands out and should be in people's top tens. I know it's in mine when it comes to NES games. I will have to sit down one day and really think of a list of all these games that I really enjoy for Nintendo specifically because I have so many favorite games. But for Nintendo, Batman's definitely, even if it's like number nine, it's there. It would always be there, not only for nostalgic purposes, but like criticizing it with all, objectively, it's a fantastic game. It's a phenomenal game. It's just hard as shit. And it's like, the best way I describe it is like, it's like imagine having your favorite meal. I think I said this before. Imagine having your favorite meal and everything is cooked to perfection, and you're like, "This is my favorite meal." Not only is it my favorite meal, it's been prepared phenomenally, right? And then you go and you just put a little bit of salt on it, right? Just because you're like, "I like a little bit of salt," and then the fucking cap unscrews and the entire contents of the salt shaker falls on your steak or whatever food you're having. That's what it feels like. The salt falling onto your food would be the difficulty, right? You're pinching it at first. You're just little pinches of salt just to get a touch of difficulty because you want some sort of challenge, right? You want the game to be formidable. But unfortunately, Cap unscrewed and boom, just a shitload of difficulty. That's what playing Batman is like. Dark Souls, you can say, follows that same formula. Ninja Gaiden 100% follows that formula. There's something about difficult games that are also very rewarding. Once you finish them, it's like, oh shit, I beat a tough game. And a lot of the allure for Dark Souls also falls under that category. People like to brag that they finished Dark Souls because it's kind of like a, yeah, look how macho I am, or tough, or whatever description you want to use. It's weird because if I was to sit here and criticize a game, obviously it's not a perfect game. It's near perfect, though, I will say that. It's not a 10 out of 10, but in my world, I would say it's a solid 9 out of 10. It really is. And the only reason I don't give it a perfect 10 is because like it doesn't follow the movie religiously. It barely follows the movie at all. Like it's there's barely it all the people that you fight, from bosses to just regular, run of the mill enemies, they're like unrecognizable. They're just generic guys with guns. They're like fucking, what are they? Like these remote controlled car bombs, and you fight like rooms full of traps. Those are bosses. Like there's stages where the end boss of that stage would be just a room full with like guns and shiny bleepy things that you have to destroy. So the boss for that stage is a room. It's cool. I like the concept of it. I do, but it's weird because it's like you've got so many villains to work with in the Batman series, and if you're going to, I use the IP, right? And if you're gonna get liberal with it, right? Why don't you just throw in known Batman villains? Why not, right? It doesn't have to follow the movie religiously. If I'm not mistaken, it says, if you look at the game, the Batman 1989 or whatever, it doesn't say, it just says Batman the video game. It doesn't say like Batman the movie, the video game. And maybe that was deliberate. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe they were like, we know we're not going to barely follow anything the movie does. Although it kind of does because it has like the same ending. If I'm not mistaken, when Joker falls off the cathedral, I think it is, and, quote unquote dies. So it's weird. It's Joker, I think it's the only known villain in the entire game. Now that I think about it, the rest of them are like electric, and also he has electric powers. He has electricity powers, and I understand that. Like he has his giant gun, which we all know, and then he could just put his hand up in the sky, and electricity just rains down on you, or thunder rains down. It's very weird. Thunder or lightning, I don't know, whatever. Um, Still, that doesn't detract from the fact that like it doesn't subtract from the fact that the game's phenomenal. That aside, that if I'm not mistaken, I think I was reading Wikipedia. Not it ain't. I think I was reading Wikipedia earlier, and I saw that that was one of the major criticisms of the game was that the game didn't follow the movie. Although it had the logo, just like the movie, it had the everything looked like the movie game, and you can 100% tell they were capitalizing off the success of the movie, and they were like, we're just gonna make a game and keep breaking in those bucks. So it's like they rolled the tidal wave of momentum that the movie made and kind of just, was like, hey, we're going to come out with a game. People are going to think that this game is related to the movie, so they're going to see a lot of the things that happen in the movie in this game. And no, that was not the case. Whatever. To me, in my world, that's a small criticism, because the game is so good. Like, it has one of the most phenomenal soundtracks ever. I already said that. I can't stop thinking about that and talking about that because it really is memorable, at least to me. I'm sure if someone who's younger than me were to go back and listen to the Batman NES 1989 soundtrack, the OST, they're going to be like, the fuck? So I'll warn you, if you're someone who's listening, if anyone's listening, actually, I don't even fucking know. If anyone's listening and you're younger, you're, in your 20s, just take heed. And if you're going to listen, do it with an open mind. But it's still memorable tunes, like which like it makes me think about like when I speak to my younger coworkers, right? And they're oh, I love this song from, Zelda. They're like, I was playing Zelda and this song is really cool. And I'm just like, but that's the original like Hyrule Field song or whatever. And they're like, what? You know what I mean? And then I'll play them the original and they're like, oh, I see where that came from. But they're not like, there's no way they can connect that. It doesn't connect to the heartstrings because they weren't alive when I was playing this game because I'm an older man. And you can tell, and I'm just like I guess you could say the same thing about me from someone who's older than me. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. There's another coworker that I work with, and he was talking about he was born in the 70s, and he was talking about how like Baseball cards were a huge thing, and I wasn't alive during that era. Like I was alive, obviously, when I was a kid. Cards were always the rage, and they still are today in 2023. You know what I mean? I just heard, like, I think it was Post Malone bought like a $2 million Pokemon card or something like that. Whatever, dude. And the guy, one of the Logan brothers or whatever, he bought a Charmeleon card or some shit like that. I don't know. They spend millions of dollars on these cards, and so they're still very um present today. But back then, when this was before well, not video games, but this was before the internet. You had to do shit that was physical. You had to go outside and play. I know I'm sounding like an old man right now, but you had to go outside and play. You had a bicycle. You grabbed this broken tree branch, and that was your bat. Or you ran around and got lost for a while, and I think they called them like latchkey kids or something like that. So like it's very weird that we live in a almost polar opposite society today where it's like mostly everyone stays inside, including myself. Like I'm spending way more time indoors. As a matter of fact, I'm spending way too much time indoors to the point where I'm like, hey, I gotta like I talked to my friend earlier today, as a matter of fact, this morning, and I told her, I said, hey man, like we gotta start going out. Like I've been spending too much fucking time here. I'm like, I gotta go swimming before the summer's done. I mean, I already went swimming over my cousin's house and all, but I mean, like swimming, like an actual trip where I can go somewhere and whatever. I like swimming. So I don't know. It's weird because we went from like when I was younger, I was not like this at all. I was always outside 24/7, always at a friend's house, always at a friend's house, or just roaming around the neighborhood. And now that I'm older, it's like, yo, I got everything I need here. I got my video games, I got my snacky snacks. If I want to order something, I can order something. I've got my movies, got my TV. It's like it's very hard to like leave, especially when it's like your weekend off and you've had a pretty tough week at work and you're like, I just want to just chill. So whatever, I get that. Um, yeah, life lessons in Batman. Let me read my notes here because I'm fucking going off the rails like I usually do. Um, I just wrote hard fucking game. Yeah. So I already spoke about that, but I'll get into it a little more. It is a legendary difficult game. I already said that. I mean, like I told you before, I heard that it was intentionally made difficult so it can increase the replayability or whatever. And somewhere over time, games got very games hold your hand now a lot more. They have objectives, autosave. You know, they let you know where you got to go every step of the way. And for some people, they love that shit. For some people, they don't want to play a game where they give you too much freedom and you don't know where to go. And that's because they've been conditioned over these last few years. It's all games have been like, go here, go here, go here, go there, don't go there. Hey, you're not ready to go there. You're not ready to go there. And it's like, to me, I personally don't like that. I like to just drop me in a world and let me go where I want to go. Hence why I love Elder Scrolls games so much, because you can do that. They drop you into this beautiful world, and it's like, all right, pick a direction and keep walking. You're gonna find something, and you're gonna get into something. Oh, and you'll know if that's not your level. You'll know if that enemy's not that's not your level. You know how? You know why? Do you know how? Sorry, try to do both of them at the same time. How and why? I say hi. Do you know how you would know that that enemy is not at your level? Because he's gonna fucking kill you. That's how. And then you learn, and then you go, all right, well, let me load up my save and I'd go there or avoid them. I like that. I don't like to be supervised when I'm playing games. I just want to just go for it. And you know, what else I got here on my notes? Oh yeah, you know what? I pretty much said everything I needed to say. I said borrows loosely from the movie, amazing soundtrack, hard fucking game. Yeah, I mean, I can only think of a few games that like I try not to have too much video game soundtracks on my Spotify or on my phone in general, but Batman NES is always there. So is Super Castlevania 4. That soundtrack is amazing. I can make a whole video on that alone, the entire game, which I might, you know, but there's only a few games that I'm like, okay, these soundtracks stay on here forever. I'm gonna give you a sleeper soundtrack that is amazing, and the game sucked, right? Bad Dudes for NES. For all my old folks out there, do you remember Bad Dudes? I'm bad. It had like a voice clip that was terrible. The voice clip was bad while they were saying I'm bad. That's not even a bullshit lie. That's 100% accurate. Anyways, the games was not a good beat 'em up. It was also a short game, kind of difficult, but it just wasn't good. It was all jittery and the mechanics weren't great. But the soundtrack carried that game. I remember playing that game and hearing it like for the first time. I was over at my cousin's house when we were kids, and I was like thinking like, damn, this game, I love these tunes. They're so cool. And anyways, that's one of the games that I have in my phone. I'm like, I always got to listen to that from time to time, as well as Batman, as well as Super Castlevania. There's probably a couple of other ones I can't remember right now, but um, it's also good to know that like you know playing a game from 1989 came out in Japan 1989 when I'm talking about Batman NES, and then it came out in 1990 here in the States. It's also good to know that like years later, all the way to the year that we're at now, it's good to know that Batman is still in good hands. You know what I mean? Like I played the Arkham trilogy. That was the last. Those were the last Batman games that I played. I don't know if any came out after that. Oh yeah, Gotham Knights came out. I haven't played that though. That game, from what I heard, got abysmal reviews. I always tell people take reviews with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? Go play the game yourself. If you can find a game on sale, play it yourself and you be the judge. And I want to play Gotham Knights. If I don't know if it's online only. If it's online only, then by the time I get to it, it's probably not even going to be active anymore. But if it isn't online only, then yeah, I'll definitely grab it. I'm pretty sure it's cheap now, but I'll definitely grab a copy or whatever and give it a shot. But I remember I loved the Arkham trilogy. Those games are fucking awesome. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, it's good to know that these franchises are still going strong. Of course, Batman isn't going nowhere. Who doesn't fucking love Batman? So, years from now, 10, 15, 20 years from now, there'll still be Batman movies. Mark my words. But it is sad when I think about even games that I covered on this channel, that no longer are in existence, like Phantom Fighter, for example, right? For NES. That's a game that's obscure as fuck. Like no one knows about this game. But I love this game, and it's not for everyone. This is not a good this isn't I don't highly recommend it like I highly recommend Batman. Phantom Fighter is a game that I go like I like it, but like you may not. And if you said, yeah, what the fuck did you recommend to me, Dan? I'll be like, I get it, I understand. It's not for everyone. But anyways, it's sad to like play these games and go like, wow, I love the soundtrack, I love the game. It'll be cool if this game it got revived or it became a thing. Or it's still a thing today in our modern era, but it's not. It's dead in the water, and I'm gonna be 70 years old and still be like, oh, Phantom Fighter hasn't come out. Final Phantom Fighter 2. And they're going to be like, okay, Dad, take your meds. You can say that about lots of games. Star Tropics, right? Come on, dude. Come on. Like, for my older folk too, Star Tropics was like I hate to say it. It's like a Zelda clone. If it was a dude with a yo-yo. I hate to reduce games to just say it's a Zelda clone, but it kind of is. I'm gonna be real with you. The first Star Tropics, the second Star Tropics was good, but the first one was like legendary awesome. And I'm like, this is a series that should be revived. Like it was so good, and everyone's heard about it at that time. Everyone's heard about it. Now no one knows what Star Tropics is. But if you guys ever get a chance, definitely check out Star Tropics 1 and look at that. But if you're someone who's my age and you're into retro gaming, you've heard thousands of YouTubers say what I just say. Check out this Star Tropics. That's not, among retro gamers, it's not a hidden gem. We all know what Star Tropics is, but I would say to the general public, especially the young public, they're like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What's another game? Now it's bothering me because I said that I'm thinking of games that have fucking amazing soundtracks, and I'm trying not to name modern games because today's music is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like I'm still playing Path of Exile with my friend every night. We're almost done all of the chapters or whatever. We might not do the end game because we got Remnant 2 that we want to jump into. But we're definitely gonna finish at least the entire storyline campaign if you can do that, because I don't even know, to be honest with you. But just the soundtrack of Path of Exile is amazing because it's like it's a modern game, so I can't count these games because they're all great.
But like I'm talking old school games, like Super Nintendo games, of course, Super Castlevania. Mario games have awesome. I mean, Sonic games, geez, Sonic games, you name them. Sonic One, Sonic Two, I believe Sonic Three, even Sonic Spinball has some tracks that you're just like, damn, the tracks were so good. I think Michael Jackson was involved in production at one point, or it was rumored that he was going to be in, to do some tracks for Sonic the Hedgehog, or I don't know. Michael Jackson is always like he's always tied to Sonic, the franchise, somehow, some way. I read that that was a thing at first. Like he signed up originally for it, then he reneged, or something happened where it was just a legend and then never really had. I don't know, but that goes to show you how good the soundtracks were when you have an actual mega star tied to your project. And it's just crazy how, like, when you hear chip tunes, they all sound like bleep bleep bloop bloops. You know what I mean? Like but it's amazing that if you put it in the hands of a proper artist, they can make some real memorable magic. Because I've played hundreds of games, maybe thousands, who knows? I don't even fucking know. I've been playing games for a long time. And so many games I don't remember their soundtracks. So many games I don't. But there's only a few that I'm like, they're burned in my memory forever because they're that good. And, they're chip tunes. If you think about it, it's not necessarily sophisticated music, but it doesn't matter. It still sounds fantastic, and I love it. And it was so artfully crafted that it's like it stood the test of time. Especially in my mind, like when you're 38 and you're still thinking about these little tunes or whatever. I go to cons sometimes, every now and then, not so much nowadays, but I used to go to video game cons a lot, and they have chiptune bands. And I'm like, oh, cool. I see it's still alive, and it's good to know the spirit is still alive, and it's good to know that there's other people out there too that love this type of music because, it's not something you want to blast at a party or nothing like that when you have friends over. Or maybe it is, depending on which crowd you have or whatever. I I'm almost scared to talk about any other Batman game that came out for Nintendo. Sadly, I can't remember any, and I know there's probably people who are my age listening, like, "Oh yeah, well, what about this Batman? This Batman? This Batman's more superior." I know the Super Nintendo ones were fucking awesome, like Batman Returns, that beat 'em up. Oh, for Super Nintendo, oh, that was a pretty cool soundtrack too. But it was more like I, I can't explain it. Like it's more Christmassy. Like it has like bells and there's snow when you're fighting. I don't know why, but also actually I do know why because I think that in the movie it takes place in Christmas. Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I've seen Batman Returns, but I remember the game being phenomenal and it had maximum replayability, and it was just so fun running around beating the shit out of people with Batman. Great beat 'em up. So I know that, but then you also have on the same system, you have like Batman Forever. And you're like, what? Like a Mortal Kombat style uh Batman game? That's such a weird crossover there, but that happened and it was no then. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those games you play and you're like, okay, it's Batman, they suckered me in, so I'm just gonna play this cartridge. But then, after a while you're like, I'm gonna not do this. I'm gonna play other things because this isn't necessarily a great game. I I want to continue believing that Batman is in good hands, and I'm excited for its next game. Some people will say, "Oh, it's fucked because of Gotham Knights," and I don't believe that at all, in the slightest. And some YouTubers, some reviewers, some critics, they're very like doom and gloom, and a lot of that comes from the clickbait nature that we live in today. It's clickbait society where you have to say things like that to get eyeballs on your videos. Tabloids have been doing this for years. This is nothing new. Thumbnails with your face, your hands on your face, and all that. Like that's all like, what I'm saying? That's all tabloidy shit that's been happening since before the internet. You know what I mean? And now the internet has discovered it, and YouTubers have discovered that's the quickest way to get eyeballs on your product. So they're always like, "Oh, the Batman franchise is doomed, is ruined." It's not. It's not. And I know some good shit's gonna come eventually, especially, considering you can't have a major IP or a major character like Batman just, right off into the sunset after Gotham Knights. You know what I mean? Like you gotta come harder. And I'm sure come harder. And I'm sure that's exactly what's gonna happen. Things are gonna improve for that. So, as far as that goes, I know it's gonna be I know the next game's gonna be better. I'm hoping the next game's. I don't fucking know. I'm not. Obviously, I'm not a sidekick, but I'm almost sure. If I had to make a bet, I would make a bet that the next Batman game's gonna be better. 110%. Anyways, thanks for listening. Catch you guys some other time. I have finally kept my promise of having a video up every week. At least I kept my promise for this instance because I know that I probably am not gonna post for like another 2 weeks after this. I'm trying to, but you know, we'll see what happens. Thanks for listening, y'all.